Hi there, and welcome to the Cotswold Explorer. I'm Robin Shuckburgh, and we're exploring the wonderful region of the Cotswolds in southwest England. We've decided to revisit the centre of the region and find some hidden gems, places that are not quite so famous, but still just as beautiful. Today you find Ross, Widget, Gizmo and me in a tiny village called Fulbrook. What's really intriguing about this place is that it's just across the river Windrush from Burford, that great conurbation which is known as the gateway to the Cotswolds, and where we've been, of course, in some detail and filmed in some detail in the past. But this place feels hidden. It's extraordinary, really. We're going to show you around. Come with us. For years, Fullbrook has been a small village we drive through when we're on the way to Chipping Norton, barely noticing its beauty and utterly failing to realise that what you can see from the main road is a mere fraction of this lovely village. It's less than 30 minutes from my home, and yet I had never really looked at it. Today we put that right. Today we even stopped for lunch at the pub in the village called the Carpenter's Arms. We were chuffed because it turned out they knew the channel. Ross and I are always pleased when people say hello. When you drive down the slope of the famous Burford High Street to the bridge over the river Windrush, if you look across the stream and up to the top of Westall Hill opposite, you will see a ridiculously beautiful collection of houses. A 17th century manor house, built for the Bartholomew family, linked to a 17th century farmhouse by a large carriage arch. On the west side of the small green are a couple of beautiful Georgian houses, and on the other side of the road an extraordinary gazebo with a pyramid roof. This is the westernmost part of the village of Fullbrook, and an absolute gem. This group of houses is at the end of a single-track road with no passing spaces, lined with grand houses set well back from the road with huge gardens, and there's hardly anywhere to stop a car, so walking here from the centre of the village is really the only way to see it. It's just under a mile from the pub. Closer, at the top of Church Lane, a small turning off the main road, is the Church of St. James. The church is almost certainly 11th century in origin, demonstrated by the Saxon herringbone stonework on the outside south wall. Also, right next to this evidence of Norman lords using Saxon labour, is a wonderfully preserved mass dial. Mass dials are a type of medieval sundial found on the south side of many churches in this part of the world. They're called mass dials because it is thought they showed the time of the Mass and other services held during the day. The hole in the centre of the dial would once have contained a horizontal wooden or metal rod that cast a shadow. This rod is known as a gnomon. The impressive porch and 12th century doorway, no more than a couple of feet deep but beautifully designed, lead you into an atmospheric church, certainly restored and reshaped in the 13th century and again in the 19th, along with so many of the churches we see in the Cotswolds. There is a lovely plain tub font from the end of the 12th century on a much more modern base. There are some great remnants of 13th century wall painting in the chancel, transept and nave. A great east window made in the 19th century by Kemp, and a couple of lights in the southeast window of the chancel. There are some marble monuments on the walls which are well worth looking at, and the carved stone corbels can keep you amused for hours. The churchyard contains some extremely ornate and beautiful chest tombs around the 1,000-year-old yew tree I mentioned earlier. The village has one rather more gruesome claim to fame. Some of you will remember around Halloween time we told you a story of the Dunstan brothers, notorious highwaymen who lived in Fullbrook in the 1770s and 80s. They were eventually caught and executed, and their bodies were returned to Fullbrook, where they were gibbeted on an old oak tree just north of the village as a discouragement to those considering a life of crime. It seems that the man charged with returning the bodies got so thirsty that he stopped for a drink at the George in Burford on the way. This happened to be the favourite drinking establishment of the brothers, and the story goes that their spirits stayed at the George, haunting it to this day. I hope you've enjoyed our little trip around Fullbrook. It's so beautiful. The red kites are circling in the sky. It's very unusual to find something so quiet and beautiful so close to home. I'm standing here in front of a 1,000-year-old yew tree of great beauty, an enormous girth, and I feel kind of centred here. It's a wonderful place. It's not easy to visit, it has to be said. The lanes are very narrow and you really have to walk it, so bear that in mind. But it is lovely. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Press the little bell icon next to the subscribe button, and that'll allow us to let you know every time we post something. And visit our website, thecotswoldexplorer.co.uk, where you'll find everything we've ever done in the last 7 odd years. It's amazing what an extraordinary body of work we seem to have produced. We're really quite proud of it. We'll see you again very soon, somewhere else in the Cotswolds.